Hello. I'm going to explain the succession crisis after William died in 1087. And I'm going to focus on three things that I personally would probably write about as three paragraphs in a question such as this. Starting with this. The first succession crisis that we have to learn about was all because Edward the Confessor didn't have a son or a brother or a close blood relative, which opened up the way to a succession crisis. William had the problem from a completely different angle because he had three ambitious sons. He had basically had three mini conquerors, only they weren't mini, they were fully grown men. Robert the eldest, William Rufus and Henry, and all three of them wanted power and lusted after power. That would be a good phrase to use. Lusted after power to the same extent, seemingly, as their father did. So if you've got three times William the Conqueror, you're going to have a big problem in terms of deciding who should be king. And they all wanted that particular role. Robert definitely did. It's one of the reasons, perhaps, why he fought his dad, which we'll come to in a minute. Henry definitely did, because he manoeuvred his way into becoming eventually King of England, and William Rufus did because he became King of England. So they clearly all wanted it, and they were all going to compete over it, and you can assume they tried to gather allies amongst the barons to their cause, to their side. So the fact that there were three ambitious sons who clearly and obviously, there's evidence there from history, all wanted the throne of England, meant there was likely to be a succession crisis because they were going to squabble over it. But there was also this. That's getting in the way behind there, so I'll just hold up on his own. Silly me. This one, Robert and William. There's Robert saying, "I hate you, Dad," and there's William saying, "Shut up, lobster features," because apparently that's one of the nicknames that William had for Robert. He didn't like Robert, and Robert didn't take kindly to his dad not being very nice to him. And this causes a huge problem with the succession crisis because Robert is the eldest son. And tradition at the time suggests, although not absolutely certainly the case, as we'll see, the eldest son traditionally would be the heir to his father's lands and to his father's titles. But William didn't seem to want to give Robert all of his titles and all of his lands because he didn't like him. He thought he was spoiled, amongst other things, which I guess William should probably take some responsibility for. But anyway, he thought he wouldn't make a good leader. He didn't like him. He called him Curthose as well, which was basically short, which is just insulting. So eventually it all came to a head, of course. We've learnt about this when Henry and William Rufus weed on Robert's head, supposedly, and he lost the plot. Said to William, "What are you going to do about this?" William didn't do anything about it. Robert stormed off, went to the King of France, one of William's enemies, and the Duke of Flanders, and they gave him a castle from which he could raid into Normandy and annoy his dad. William turned up to fight Robert. I've no idea how to pronounce it properly, but it's something like Gerberai. Anyway, William turned up to lay siege to Robert's castle that he had. Robert came out to fight him, and supposedly Robert himself wounded William. Anyway, that's not the point, the details of that battle. The point is that these two had completely fallen out. After that battle, William and Robert made peace, and William said, "Yeah, okay, I'll make you my heir." But did he specify heir to what? Possibly not, because when William actually died, he'd left Robert Normandy, and not necessarily England, which William Rufus seized for himself with a little bit of help from his dad. So, the fact that there's three ambitious sons wouldn't necessarily potentially have been such a problem if William had clearly and obviously given the throne of England to his eldest son, although maybe the other two perhaps wouldn't have accepted that if that had happened. So maybe this is the most important, maybe this is the most important, or maybe there's a bigger reason. Because the barons were divided. If you were a Norman baron, you came across in 1066 with William to conquer England, and when you conquered England you got some land. So this means you've got lands in England, you've got lands in Normandy. Fantastic, especially when you've only got one boss to worry about. But if William divides the lands between William Rufus and Robert, which he did, that's two bosses. So, and these are two bosses who don't get on and are quarrelling over who should be in charge. So it means the barons aren't happy. If you side with this one, you're going to lose your lands here, and if you side with Robert over here, you're going to lose your lands in England. So the barons started to take sides at the start of all this to try to choose who they were going to back in what they thought was a coming conflict. Now, if the barons weren't divided and they all united behind one of the candidates for the throne, one of the sons, then you could imagine that the other two didn't have any chance at all. But the fact that they divided between William, Rufus and Robert in the first case means there's going to be a succession crisis, because the barons are the ones with the power, with the soldiers through the feudal system, with the peasants who owe them military service and their knights. They gather the armies for these people. You need barons on your side if you're going to have any chance of being king, but the fact that the barons were divided, their lands were divided, which made them think, well, I better choose a side, the side that I think's going to win, divided their support between the two, specifically the two or maybe even the three sons. So, Robert and William's relationship, three ambitious sons, the barons being divided. They all needed each other to happen to cause this succession crisis in 1087. But of course, history is all about working out which one was the most important of those three that I've chosen. You might have some of your own.